Hey, on One Man Garage, I'm going to take the intake I put on this motor I built a few years ago that hasn't been installed yet, because we're going to put a stock intake on it that'll be what we really intended to use for the stock look, and since the heads are pretty much stock, and I'm going to try to use this on the Catalina and port match it and raise the roof. So we're taking it off. Got the 2.30 inch tall gasket from Tin Indian Performance. That's TIP, just the tip, -120230. And you can see, and I was able to use 7/16 bolts to get everything squared. You can see the port floors line up perfectly, and there's a massive amount of material. I got to widen the port and raise the port. The center dividers in the floor are dead on, so you can tell this is a quality product. I've got a thicker version of this on the car now. That's what it took to get the bolt holes lining up good on the Pontiac stroker and the Catalina. These were a set of thinner gaskets, so it depends on what happens on the Catalina, if the gaskets tear or not when I take off the manifold. So that sort of remains to be seen. I might have to stop and order new stuff. We'll wait and see, but this is for port matching purposes. Hopefully I won't ruin the gasket. I had them hanging in the garage and they were mildewing and warping because they're just natural material. Of course, I could get another set of thin ones and double them up. I don't know. Probably order both, thick and thin. Used a Sharpie down in there and got a good mark to show what I need to do. So that's pretty straightforward to get it lined out. This may take a while. And of course, aluminium will tend to booger up the grinder bits too. Out for a cruise in the Le Mans. Gonna take that intake and get it port matched by a professional, Lloyd Elliott Port Works. Because all I have is bits for steel, and it just starts galling up when I started port matching the one port. So I ain't gonna fool around with it. He's not too expensive to just do a port match. So I'm gonna take a nice little cruise in the 69 and drop off that manifold. And I've been prepping that other iron intake because we're gonna put it back on the 455. We're gonna take this scenic road to go into Rocket, Texas, and then back on out and head on to his place. But south of Dallas County and Ellis County, there's kind of a gem of a little pocket community called Rocket. It's got a nice creek and little hills. It's a pretty little area. Man, I wish I would have got a video of that other property I just passed. It was maybe on the way home I can do that. I know other parts of the country this is just normal, but when you live in a flat like prairie where I live, you know, I enjoy little things like this. Creek down there. Fixing to turn 86,000 miles on this 69 Pontiac. Built in Arlington, Texas. Sold new at Van Winkle Pontiac, Dallas, Texas, which was also one of the Pontiac dealers that raced Super Duty 421 Catalinas and 421 Super Duty Tempest wagon, one of 6. Speaking of Van Winkle Pontiac, that would be the same Van Winkle family that brought you Vanilla Ice. Don't blame me, blame Pontiac for selling a lot of cars so they could be like a rich kid family. Well, headed back home, that old US 287. You know, that connects Beaumont and Port Arthur, the Gulf of Mexico, all the way up by Yellowstone. Kind of a cool cruise if you was ever take that on. Yeah, I got the intake dropped off. Hopefully you can get to it pretty quick. I'd like to put it on pretty soon. I went by his old place and his house was missing. Apparently he relocated. Performer RPM intake was ready to pick up from Elliott's Port Works. did that port match for me, raising the roof to 2.30. As always, looks fantastic. Probably putting that on very soon. And what a beautiful neighborhood, man. I'm not gonna say where it is, but it's beautiful. Beautiful Pontiac with a nice quarter panel. Yes, the ported, professionally port matched intake is ready to go to match the heads, so we can drop that 60 foot to 1.5 something from 1.60. And I got some new cheapest shocks Monroe sells. Don't even get a sticker on them. I mean white. They don't even want to. They're not even proud of what they made on the cheap ones. They're just white. They have nothing, not even a... Well, whatever. That's all you need for drag racing. It matches the car. See, because the shocks that were on the car, when I got to the races last weekend, there was oil dripping on my trailer from the bottom of both shocks. And I thought, well, what kind of crazy stuff is that? I mean, they're the ones that were on the car when we bought it after it had sat for 30 years. So, I mean, sure, they're maybe not performing their best, but why are they just now leaking? I've been racing this car for like 6 years on and off. Oh well, whatever. I had to go spend like $8 and get two more. Maybe it was 16 for two, I don't know. So yeah, we're gonna do shocks. We're gonna do an intake swap. Maybe even make the track Sunday for test and tune. We'll see how it goes tomorrow. It's Friday. We'll start on it today and see how far we get. I also want to hook up the passenger gear detent cables so we can get automatic upshifts and drive wide open. And if there's any time left, maybe start modifying the transmission governor as well. Here at One Man Garage. Okay, well, that's what we're taking off. And of course, when we go to the RPM intake, I will now have the opportunity to compare various Hollies and go back to my good old spread bore quadrajet. See what ends up being what I leave on the car. So I'm going to start pulling off carburetor and disconnect alternator, I guess, and probably drain some coolant. Probably a good idea because, well, anyway, I need to drain coolant. Service announcement, just a reminder, buy the anti-seize and always put anti-seize on your bolts that go into aluminum threads. Like I'm alternating studs and bolts on the carburetor, but I put anti-seize so I don't damage the manifold when I'm torquing stuff down. It's important. My coolant's right to the water neck, but got the hose off without spilling any yet. To go ahead and pull off the tapered 4-hole spacer. Come on now. I will just take the stud out. We might need that later. Probably not. Won't be doing 2-inch studs on the new setup. Super long studs to accommodate a 2-inch spacer. Do the preventative duct tape next. Regardless, don't take any chances. I've had friends that have had star washers fall in their down the throat when they worked on cars. Now, mind you, it was back in the old days and I wasn't there. I don't know if there was any substances around, you know, like alcohol, which, by the way, I'm 18 days not having any and feeling great. Gotta take care of your body, you know, and your mind. Carry on. Duct tape. I don't know why people think that square gasket won't seal a Holly straight on a dual spread, you know, pattern manifold, because they do. You don't have to have this whole thickness. I mean, it's sure it's like right there, but it's still gonna seal. And the same goes on the inside. People are crazy doing adapters to a Holly when it's not only, it's meant for both. So why there's two sets of holes? It would come with the adapter. They would have made it different. Come on, man. Draining water out of the radiator and only got this. And it slowed down, kind of makes me wonder, maybe that's why it got a little warm at the track racing. Maybe the water was low. And if that's the case, where did it go? Are we consuming water in a head gasket or something that I don't know about? So we'll probably, while we're doing this, we'll probably have to read the plugs and check compression all the way around, because it's been a while. I've ran it a few times and haven't looked at it. So I guess we need to do that tomorrow. Today, whatever, tomorrow. Yep. All right, well, I'm ready to lift this separated water crossover off, but I think I glued her down real good. I have to pry that off. You got to keep the Thanos 1000 around, you know, for prying stuff or defending yourself, so you can make time to go get your gun and finish it. Somebody, you know, shows up at the house unwelcomed. Get out of there. Yep, tore the gasket, planned on it. I gotta start doing like engine masters and glue it down on the head side, but put grease on the top side for quick lifting, or at least on the intake part, maybe not on this part. I don't know. Whatever. My gaskets are just paper, but they're special big port gaskets, so that's what you get. Yes, we need to pry this off too. Well, maybe I can. There we go. Yeah, I'm not reusing that. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, the old ports, as far as the height, was dead on this manifold as cast. I couldn't believe it. They weren't as wide as the gaskets, but the tallness, when I put this thing together, I was like, oh shoot, I'll just stick it on there. 10 performance. Port fitment was really good when I put this together. Of course, this is saying the floor didn't line up. So I don't know. I think that other intake was milled a bunch, because I had to put this real thick gasket on. 120230. So maybe since the RPM intake's not milled, maybe it will actually line up better. So this would imply that manifold ran low and the ports wouldn't have actually been lined up as good. That's kind of good to know on my part. I think it's going to be better aligned this time. Tape, safety first, safety for the engine. So we'll probably hose off with a brake cleaner or something. Now for this side. Other side taped up. A glorious Saturday morning and great weather to you. We're going to resume and I guess put the new intake gasket down and start mocking up the alignment and see how that RPM intake fits up, because apparently that other intake was milled a lot or something. So hopefully we'll have a nice fit with the gaskets. Side note, just randomly I was cleaning up spare parts and I had this Dana 44 diff cover and some gray tractor paint, so I degreased it for no reason at all and just painted it so I can just hang it on the wall for decor. Okay, that didn't mean anything, I just did it. We also got to make an upper bracket for the cool can to sort of strap it to the firewall. Gonna have to do that and redo the torque chain once the engine stuff's done and the shocks. We're gonna try to do the intake and shocks today, or all of it. We'll see. Intake gasket will be from Summit at SCE 128105. That's a 2.30 tall gasket. Yep. Just me, or do you hate these plastic sealed up paper gaskets that you pay $20-something, $30 for, and you have to be super careful and have to work your ass off to get them out without freaking breaking them and stuff? Kind of pisses me off. Why can't they use little thin boxes like Velcro does? A lot of the time, or used to anyway. Or have a baggy, loose, you know, not sucked up cover on it. Velcro just does it better. Wish they made this size gasket. Well, got gaskets with a little silicone in place, mostly around the water, and a couple dabs here and there to glue them down. Port floors feel pretty flush, and the match is perfect at the top, dead on. This one was trying to creep up slightly here. I probably should just razor blade the bottom. I finger tighted a bolt here to help hold it, but I might slip the bottom of the razor blade there. Make sure the floor is dead even before it sets. Well, I got just a couple millimeters off the bottom of the gasket and got it to drop slightly. Main thing is you want these dividers dead on and the floors flush, and that's as good as it's gonna get. Looks good to me. Let that dry. Their spare gaskets that got warpy and moldy in the garage are just gonna go back for spares. I can get those maybe a little wet later and put it, weight it down with some books on a flat surface and probably get them straight. Maybe paint them, coat them with something, sort of prep them. Maybe they won't warp next time. Lloyd Elliott at Elliott Portworks did a heck of a job on this manifold. He even took the time to wire wheel and shine it up on top. Really appreciate it. And don't forget, put your little rubber gasket doodad bypass in there. I silicone the back, hold it in place. And if you hadn't worked on a Pontiac before, you have to get all your intake bolts in there, not tight, but get where you're about to tighten them, and then you'll tighten the forward bolt. It'll scooch it forward and compress the rubber against the timing cover, and then you'll torque the bolts. But you want your bolts like right to the verge where they're about to be torqued, but not dragging the manifold, because you don't want it to like lift up or in the back or be in a bind or anything. You just need to get all your bolts to where they're all the way in as far as finger tight will go, and then pull it forward tight, and then snug the back and pattern it however you want to do it. There you go. New to me, engine masters, they'll put grease on the top side of the gasket so they can swap intakes for testing. And I mean, technically that will repel, reject water and vacuum leaks, and it'll allow the intake to come off in case I need to dive back into this and not rip the gasket in half. So just maybe this gasket can get reused a few times. So hope that works. Really don't see why it wouldn't. It's just adding an extra mill coat of something that's going to seal, air and water just as well. So it should give me something to tighten up against, just like the silicone on the back. Wish me luck. Well, I'd say it fits perfect. I'm pretty sure this intake was never milled. And these heads, I believe, have just barely been surfaced a little, because I think they came factory at 85 cc's, and I tried to measure them. Was it last year or something? And I think it was 80. I came up with 83, so it looks like everything's lining up really good and looking through the holes. I got to round up some bolts. They're going to be longer because these flanges are normal thickness, and these other intake bolts I wrangled up at the local hardware store were shorter. So let me find that. I had to round up some longer, more standard length bolts to use on the intake. Some of them factory studded Pontiac intake bolts, and some long header bolts with washers and anti-seize going in aluminum heads. Got to use anti-seize. Local mom and pop hardware home improvement store instead of the big chain. I've gone on this topic before, but I spend your money with the mom and pop local stores, man. They don't have the corporate massive backing, Lowe's, Home Depot and all that, man. Spend your money on these little incidentals. Get you some nice grade 8 flange head bolts. I try to use those on everything. Other videos I mentioned that a lot of factory Pontiac intake bolts are flanged, and they work real nice on transmission bell housing bolts. The Chevrolets never came with flange bolts, but I like to use basically this is about the size of a regular Pontiac intake bolt. So we'll see. And I got a couple cap screw ones for the tighter clearance spots on the intake, some hardened washers. We'll see which goes where, whatever. Well, manifold is torqued. Got the pretty flange head grade 8s. Got a couple cap screws in the back with washers. Some studded bolts in the front. Those are handy to anchor stuff too. Got one there and a couple there. Heat temperature gauge hooked back up. New gasket for the thermostat and a gutted thermostat. Typical race car stuff. Slows the water down just a little bit, but no bubbles or spikes. Just normal stuff. Of course, you can use I like to cut a 195 in half. I think it's got a smaller hole if you want to restrict more, and you can just cut the core out of a high temp thermostat. And anyways, we're going to clean up the water neck. I got to clean that up before I can put that on. I do that pretty quick because I already put silicone. Found a NPT fitting with a big, like 1/2-inch fuel hose nipple. It had a big vacuum plug fit on it tight, so that's below the carb pad, so that won't hit anything. But at least I didn't have to go to the store. Now we can put the carb on. Then we still got to reinforce this and chain that again and do shocks, but we're going to turn it on first. Just extended the detent passing gear, got it on with a cotter pin extension. Had to mangle up this factory bracket that would help anchor the deal up there. Of course, I'm always missing the fine thread nuts. I'd bought a bunch of these anodized. I guess I'm using them on other stuff. I don't know. I'm always missing those. I got to go buy more nuts. Fine thread 5/16, grade 8 to go with the studs. I had bought extra studs. Rock Auto Dorman, you know, different lengths, just to always have a fresh box, but always missing those damn fine thread nuts. But that's all right. It's coming along. It's almost ready to start when we get the carburetor torqued down. We don't have any coolant in it, but we'll still fire it up. I had to go to the other independent, locally owned a hardware store to find the fine thread grade 8 5/16 nuts I'm always missing for these carb studs. So I got 20 of these nuts, and I didn't want to just spend less than $10 on my card, so I bought some gourmet duck fat that you can spray. I'll put some water in it. We need to see if this junk's gonna run again. Maybe it'll even idle better. That would be nice. The torque chain totally different than last time. Last time it was too horizontal, needed to be lower. And an existing hole down there, I was able to get it tight, like tight. So that's gonna work. Plus we got detent hooked up with zip tie now because that other thing wasn't gonna work. Now we need to reinforce cool can and cut the tops off these shocks. So we can put the other ones in. New 14 by 4 reusable oil gauze, whatever, Amazon air filter. Got the blue Moroso, hoping that'll clear the hood. I got the extra drop base. Can always trim the stud more or go to a 3-inch filter to close the hood, but let's see. Oh, I don't know. Pretty damn tight, but it's closed, so I guess it works. It works. It's just absolutely the biggest thing, just down to a millimeter, but it worked. On this old new in the box RCI blue seatbelt I never used. So I thought it'd make my cool can feel safe, and ran it in between the fan shroud around and through the hole. Just so it won't, like, I don't know, I'll probably just take it off. It's kind of stupid. What I really need is a piece of aluminum here to here I can put over that stud to pull that up so it'll look square. My bracket sucks. So I may still try to, you know, just tug it up snug like that. That's all it needs, is just one acceleration, you know, bent the bracket last time without even putting any ice in it. Yep. And we're about to use a death wheel. This one, cut off top of the shock. It is a hell of a lot faster and eliminates aggravation, because you know them things will always be spinning the shafts. And I used my safety glasses I bought on Amazon that are cool with a LED light on the side, chargeable with the USB cable. Man, I thought, man, it'd be great to have some of those, especially if you're broke down or working under a dash, low light, or at night. This is a pretty neat product. I think it's called Coast. It's the brand. Anyway, pretty cool. So maybe get some of those. Well, got the old Monroe Matic Plus out. I was going to see about maybe using my warranty at AutoZone, but I'll probably not. Change of management and all, probably won't honor it. But we got the new Monroe Not Plus. It's more like the minus the price. Probably paid less now than these 40 years ago or whenever these were done. They got to be 40 years old. I believe that was the quickest pair of shocks changed ever, since I just chopped the tops off and took the 2 bolts out the bottom. And these new super cheap ones fit absolutely perfect. I mean, the suspension's hanging as low as it would go, and they were only like pushed out maybe a 1/4 inch, so that you know that they're not overextended. And the bolts, factory bolts, were just long enough to catch, so I didn't have to push against the gas charge on the shock. And the little cross tie thing on the shock where the bolts go, it wasn't open slotted like they usually are open slotted. But these were actually closed, like made for the bolt spacing of this car, and fit. So that was actually a real pleasant bonus, instead of having those universal slotted ends where it can fall out if it gets loose, you know. So that's done. I need to go look, try to find a piece of aluminum flat bar or something. I could still improve this. Still need to get the damn header collector extensions to stay tight. They get loose every time I run the car. Some half-ass zip tie stuff, just temporary for now until I redo the bracket better. Might not keep the seat belt, but whatever. I think we're about ready to go to the track tomorrow afternoon. Hopefully, when this video continues, that's where I'm at, with the new Best ET with the hood on. 720 at 95 was hood off, so we want to beat that with hood on. That is the short-term goals. XRP, and I had it off the trailer ready to run, and I had brake fluid leaking from the right rear from the brake line, and tried to cut the brake line, fold it up a few times, pinch it, and it still leaked. Lost all my pedal and just had to get onto the trailer with no brakes, throwing it into park. So that's no test and tune tonight, but we're gonna watch this guy's fresh built S10, never been on the track, so we're gonna watch him and root him on instead. We're gonna see what the orange truck runs. be the very first cherry pop run in the truck. Watched a few cars run, but I gotta go home. I gotta get up in the morning for work. Kind of a drag. I could go home and drive something else up here, but I didn't even finish my Monster drink. I'll save half that for the morning. Thanks for watching me get the car ready to go to the track. And we did go to the track. We just didn't go down the track. That's all right. A few days, next weekend. Don't forget, early voting in Texas, October 21st tomorrow. Get out and do it now. Don't wait. Something's going to happen, probably. So get out and do it early. Everybody you know, tell them go now, go early.